yes.
Disappointed!
Hi everyone, welcome to another Broken Meeple Top 10 list. Yes, I want to get this one and hopefully one more out before the end of July, because after that, it's going to be, I believe, the 4th anniversary of the Broken Meeple. And as a result, that means it's time for me to do my Top 100 list again. Yes, I have already prepared the list. Literally today, I got it wrapped up from the Pub Meeple ranking engine, and ooh, my brain's burnt out from it. Seriously, 999 comparisons that the whole thing made according to the finished article. But I now have the list. I just need to sense check it to make certain that some games have ended up in the right places. I don't tend to tailor it very much after I've had that list spit out. But occasionally one or two are like, hang on, that really should be a little bit higher, that should be a little bit lower. So tiny little tweaks need to be made, but hopefully it means that I can start recording some top 100 videos and we'll start airing them out probably end of July, early August, and then they'll carry on. Same format as before, I'll do a list of 10 and, each one will be a list of 10 games and then we'll go on to the 100 and do the misses. But more on that nearer the time. What I want to do first is get a couple more top 10 lists out for you. This one is top 10 disappointments. And then after that, hopefully I can fit in top 10 long games. We'll get onto that one another time. But I sort of debated as to whether to do the tongue-in-cheek ranting one first or the nice one first. But I recently had my team kicked out of the World Cup because on a sweepstakes. So it's like, yeah, you know what? I feel like going on that little rant. Not to mention in Britain, it is hot at the moment. We're in the middle of a heat wave, and unlike a lot of you that are watching this video, we don't have aircon here. So I am roasting in this room. I mean, if you start seeing sweat drops appear down my face, then that's just because it's probably, like 20 something degrees in this room, and I can't cool it down without having loads of outside noise or fans or anything like that. So I'm literally just roasting here for your pleasure. So bear that in mind while I go on my little rants. But this isn't a massive hatred video or anything. It's not like the top 10 overrated games or the top 10 games I hate or anything. This is more games I was looking forward to and legitimately looking forward to, but didn't quite meet the mark. Maybe they just didn't deliver what I was hoping for. Perhaps they really were pretty bad from my perspective and it's like, come on, I expected this to be good. Or maybe it was, just like, expectations were high or at some other level and the game just didn't meet them for whatever reason. So take this with a pinch of salt. It's more of a tongue-in-cheek fun list. But don't worry, if you want a more positive list, that will come up next time when I talk about my top 10 long games. Yes, I do like some long games, although your definition of long might be slightly different to mine, but we'll get onto that another day. So with this list, as I said, just basically got my little black book, got the list down. It was actually a hard list to make, because I actually was able to write down quite a lot of games that I was disappointed with or didn't meet my expectations. So what does that say about me? But even then, trying to hone it down to just 10 with a short list was pretty tricky. I really struggled with ranking these in order from like 10 to 1. But even just trying to cut some games off the short list was already hard enough. So yeah, maybe that's just saying that a lot of games are coming out that are just trying to deliver too much and don't quite meet the mark. But, I mean, this is all subjective anyway. I'm not saying that all these are bad games. Some of these are actually fair, reasonably good games. They're just not what I was hoping for. So, take it for what you will.
Get on with it.
That's enough rambling on. Let's get to it. My first number 10 is one by Artipia Games, and normally they tend to do quite a few games that I've enjoyed. However, a couple have sort of left my collection by being turkeys lately. If you check out that top 10 list, you'll probably remember Among the Stars, Well, this was a spin-off of that called New Dawn, and I was quite geared up for this one because it used the exact same artwork and aesthetics as Among the Stars, and as much as Among the Stars has become a turkey for me, boy, does it look gorgeous. That artwork, that sci-fi artwork, was really, really gorgeous to look at. And I thought, oh, a new game with this based on area control around a grid map, and all the places have special powers, and there's all sorts of other like mechanics going on, and you can get bonuses at the end, you know, trying to vie control of other people. I thought, oh yeah, this could be really good, and it will look spectacular. Not entirely. Yes, it did look spectacular. There is no doubt about it. New Dawn is pretty, but it was also very, very convoluted. The problem with having all these locations with different abilities meant that the analysis paralysis went off the scale. You know, people would take forever trying to figure out where they should go, and even then, you're thinking like, well, should I wail on him? Because if I wail on him, then he's got the advantage, and it's going to hurt me a bit more. I don't know what I'm doing, and people were just kind of lost playing this game. And other than the fact that the places had the special powers, the whole area control thing wasn't as fun as I was hoping. And you can see this on clearance sales a lot. It didn't get much buzz, so I'm not alone in this thinking, but there was just something about it that didn't gel. I wanted a more streamlined affair, and this one was far from streamlined. I think it was kind of all over the place, too prone to analysis. It kind of just didn't meet the mark, and I sold it fairly promptly after I'd played maybe like about 3 or 4 games of it, because I was just like, yeah, you know what, nobody else wants to play this, I can't be bothered to keep trying to explain the rules all the time, so you know what, it's gone. Number 10, New Dawn. My number 9 is purely based on the fact that this game was created by the same designer and sort of artist and basically group and publisher as one of my favourite games of all time, Sentinels in the Multiverse. This is called Galactic Strike Force. This was a cooperative deck building game where you were playing mercenaries in space, and you had to stop this like big armada from taking over and perform little missions and that, and I thought, oh sweet! Yeah, I mean, I love Sentinels in the Multiverse, you know, so now we get another cooperative game, but now it's in space with almost like a Star Wars film, maybe Guardians of the Galaxy film. I thought, yes, this will be great. You know, Sentinels was amazing, so surely this should be. Well, firstly, my God, you think Sentinels is hard? You think half the other co-ops are hard? This was nail-bitingly, frustratingly difficult. This was near impossible to beat, unless you drew very lucky with your deck. But again, the rules were quite convoluted, they didn't make a lot of sense. And even when you actually got into it, it didn't feel as richly thematic as I was hoping to, you know, like compared to my feelings on Sentinels in the Multiverse. So it was just like, it really went down. And like I say, this was basically one of my favourite games of all time. These people have come together and created another co-op game. So my expectations were high, but, you know, I had to be slightly realistic because I thought, well, hang on, lightning doesn't tend to strike twice. It's a deck builder, but the theme sounded so amazing, and it just turned out to be kind of meh. I didn't think it was a bad game, you know, so it was only a drop to meh, but I was looking for something a lot better than this one actually was. It's very convoluted. There's probably an FAQ about 5 miles long for this game, you know, trying to understand some of the rules. The artwork was ho-hum. I mean, people rag on Sentinels for its artwork, but at least it fits that theme. This one, it doesn't fit as well, so you do have that slight issue. But mainly, it was just ridiculously convoluted and ridiculously hard. So it put me off very, very quickly after I started playing it. So, number 9, Galactic Strike Force. Number 8 is an LCG that I actually did play for a short while, you know, a good few months in that, before I started to notice the cracks in the way the system was playing, and I thought, oh great, I'm not into this anymore. You know, the tournament scene was pretty much the same decks all the time, the people were generally quite hostile, I think, towards, you know, criticisms of the game, or even just like, you know, hostile in tournaments anyway, and this is why I don't like playing in tournaments anymore. But I was really excited to get into the 2nd edition of Game of Thrones LCG. So they originally had an LCG that spanned for years and years and years. It looked cool. I played a couple of games of it and the mechanics seemed quite sound. So when the 2nd edition came out, I started from scratch, from the core set, and really enjoyed it. I thought, yeah, this is great. You know, you've got this cool, almost half bluffing mechanic. You've got to be really careful about who you send off, who you attack with, who you defend with, and you've got all the factions from the Game of Thrones series, which I love. So I was really keen for this one to work. However, as time progressed on, the cracks started appearing, as I say. Firstly, there are too many factions. The LCG cannot cope with the amount of factions that are in this game to spread the cards among them. So you found that certain packs and certain expansions barely gave you 1 or 2 cards if you were lucky for a faction, and sometimes they wouldn't even be good cards. The playstyle in tournaments meant that, you know, rather than sticking to your own banner, there was a lot of weird mixture banners going around, and the decks would be just built for power rather than actually theme. People would stick this random character with a faction that they should have no business with, purely because it was such a powerful character that it pretty much like auto won you battles when you used them. And that just spoiled it a lot for me, really. My favourite mode in it was the multiplayer one, where you got the diplomatic bits in the middle. Problem is, nobody wanted to play it, everybody wanted to do one-on-one, which is still enjoyable, but again, you're subject to those tournament decks that everybody wants to use. So to try and play this game thematically was kind of questionable. And then on top of that, you know, certain factions were definitely getting more love and powerful than other people's, and the card pool is still, probably to this day, not got far enough to the point where I can say all the factions have got a nice smorgasbord of cards. And the economy in the game was a bit fiddly as well, because you had the same economy cards in every single deck. I don't know if they've brought out more economy cards for the game now to improve on this, but you used like the same 2 or 3 cards in every deck with max copies. No matter who you were, they were these neutral cards for economy. And if you didn't have them, you lost. And if you started off with a bad hand, you pretty much lost as well, because you have to rely on your starting hand to get your initial forces out. And if your opponent has an advantage over you there, that's pretty difficult to recover from. So there was just a lot of things that just got in the way for this one, and in the end, I sold it. I've got Lord of the Rings LCG, I've got Arkham Horror LCG, I no longer have Netrunner, similar reasons for tournament play and just couldn't keep up with it, but 2 LCGs is good enough for me. Number 7, I wasn't necessarily looking forward to it loads, but I thought, this is getting a lot of love, and I like the idea of this very, well, not necessarily the very long part, but I thought this is going to be an involved settlement, village civilization building game. And I thought, okay, this could be quite cool. I mean, I like the publisher, the pieces look good, it looked like it had a lot of cool mechanics in it, you know, with a bit of variety, and I thought, I'll give this one a go, despite the fact that the length was pretty long. So my expectations were kind of in, you know, upper echelon, but not too high. Unfortunately, I didn't really get attached to this game, and it was mainly because of 2 things. 1, the length. Yes, I kind of knew this going in, but when people said that this game could take you about 7 to 8 hours, they weren't joking. The Colonists. The Colonists is played over 4 eras, but you can play separate eras, like one at a time. You can play 1, 2, 3, and 4. You know, you can tailor the game how you like. However, if you play just the first 2 eras, you pretty much do nothing but build sheds. That's pretty much it. There's so little that happens in Era 1 that it is pointless playing that as a full game. Era 2, not a great deal happens, but you get a little bit extra, but then the game ends and you feel like you want to build up more. So what you could do is start at Era 3 and go on to Era 4. Which is fine, but then you miss that build-up of it. You know, you basically start with a random set of points that you allocate and then you keep going. And, you know, it's not as fun if you haven't got the build-up as well. So what you tend to do is play all 4 eras. The problem is, to play all 4 eras, because it gets exponentially longer with each era, takes like 7-8 hours. It's ridiculous how long this game takes. Even solo, you're playing this game for like 3 hours or something. It's like, I don't want to play a solo game for 3 hours. What are you, high? It's like, I have no idea why, you know, this one gets as much love for being 7 to 8 hours. Because if you want to play a game that long, then fine. I don't get why. But if you want to play like a settlement building game and you just want that civilization style feel, go play Caverna. Go play Fields of Arle. Go play Agricola. Go play Sid Meier's Civilization, the board game. You know, go play Clash of Cultures. Go play all these other civilization-style games or settlement style games that take 2 hours, 3 hours tops. Why would I want to play this one for 7 to 8 hours? And on top of that, the other issue I had was the storage mechanic. It drove me nuts. I liked the aesthetics of the game were pretty decent, and I liked the fact that the map was different and the player interaction was pretty much half negligible. I mean, apart from blocking spaces, that was pretty much the only interaction you had with other players. But the storage mechanic drove me nuts. You had such limited spaces to put your resources in, and most of the time you have unlimited storage for resources, and I like that. Or at least I like some limitations, but not stupid limitations. Here, you start off with barely any space to put your cheese sandwich in. It's like so bad. And you're basically forced, pigeonholed into this linear progression that you must build storage sheds in order to get more storage. Because if you don't, you can't physically build the later stuff. So you have to build these. And people will be competing to do this, and basically you are competing to build sheds in the first couple of eras. And then even then, it's like you're still struggling with storage. It's like really fiddly, going, oh, hang on, I need to put that brick there, or put that in that warehouse, oh, I can put it in that shed, oh, I'll leave that on the field, oh, wait, I can't build because my brick is on the field rather than in my warehouse. I mean, God forbid somebody could just waltz over to the field and go grab the bricks for me. Or God forbid you could just leave your resources outside. I mean, it's bricks, it's not like they're going to melt in the rain. I don't know. It was such a thematic disconnect for me, that, and having to do that for 2 to 3 hours would have been fiddly enough. To do that for 7 to 8 hours drove me up the wall. And I had high expectations for this game. People were lording over this game, and I thought, it's big, it's got lots of cool pieces in it, and I thought this could be a good, fun, epic game. Yeah, not for me. My number 6 is a game that I thought loads of people liked. I hear that a lot of people like this game, but I barely ever see it played ever. Occasionally at a convention, and that's about it. I haven't seen this brought to a board game club night or suggested for a club night in ages, so has it kind of died while they're waiting for the second edition on Kickstarter? I don't know. But this one was supposed to be a lighter version of Twilight Imperium, or at least that's what it was touted as. It's nothing like it. But it was meant to be, oh yeah, you could have this 4X space epic game, but it doesn't have to take 4 to 5 hours like Twilight Imperium does, and you get to do lots of resource management and stuff. It's going to be great. No, it isn't. It's called Eclipse. And Eclipse, I thought, yes, oh, cool, I can have a space epic game in less time than Twilight Imperium. This sounds good to me. It is not a 4X game. It is not a space epic game. It is balance your checkbook in space, the game. In space. Tagline, in space. That's pretty much the game. You occasionally build ships. Yes, you build some ships and you go out and scout hexes that get you more resources, more money. You have one of the most fiddliest player boards in the world to track your money and your resources, and for God blimey, if you've got hay fever at this table, then you will sneeze and all your money goes all over the place. It is just cube central. It looks horrible when it's laid out with all these cubes everywhere as your track. But you spend most of your time, rather than going out and having this cool epic war or some cool space exploration battle, or not battle, but space exploration like saga, you're balancing your checkbook. You're constantly messing around with money cubes and stuff. And then the technologies didn't make sense. The technologies came out randomly, so you randomly may or may not get certain technologies. What? Let me choose my technologies. Give me like a deck of cards with different techs. Give me a set of tiles. You have a communal set of tiles that everybody can pick from at the same time. Give me this random allocation rubbish. It really just kind of irked me as to how this, what was supposed to be this thematic space epic game, or at least that's how it was told to me, so someone obviously sold it to me wrong, and then all I got was this fairly dry, Euro-like, economic game. It is an economic game with a space theme pasted over it. That's what Eclipse is. It was nothing like what I was expecting, and this was a big disappointment for me. I now can't bring myself to play this, and the first time I actually played this game, I tried it several times to try and get used to it, but the first time I played it, I barely knew the people. I was trying to join a new club, didn't join the club after that game, I must admit, and it was a 6-player Eclipse game with the expansion in it or something. The game took most of the day. I've seen this game go on longer than Twilight Imperium 4 if you have 6 people running it and it's just like, you basically failed at giving me the theme, you failed at giving me the fun mechanics, you failed at giving me the aesthetics, and at times you even failed to beat Twilight Imperium in playtime. Epic fail. Not for me. Big disappointment. Eclipse. My number 5 is a game that everybody loves. Everybody's going to hate on me for this. And granted, I probably did put this in my overrated games list, I think. And, you know, I still think the game's overrated, but, you know, I was actually looking forward to it. I thought, oh, I don't normally get a lot from this publisher, but the idea of being on this planet and shaping it to your will and drafting cards and having lots of variety in that, I thought, oh, this game could be pretty good. You know, I want to try it. I'm excited to try it. Yeah. No. Everybody loves Terraforming Mars. I think it's okay at best. I had really high hopes for this because I thought this is a, you know, I mean, granted, yeah, Mars is kind of the hotness right now, but it was, you know, I thought, oh yeah, you get to terraform Mars, you get to have variable, you know, player powers, you get to have variable cards, you draft, and you shape up this planet and change the temperature and all that, and I thought, oh, this could be really good. And it's average. I know some people are going, oh my god, you, what? You know, how dare you, how dare you, how dare you, I sign off from the internet, you know, for hating on this. But I just, firstly, it's long. And yes, some of you claim you can play a 4 or 5 player game in 90 minutes. Yeah, I want to see a time-lapse video of that, please, because I have never seen a 4 or 5 player game of this go in less than 2.5 hours. You know, bear in mind, people have got to teach this game as well. But 5 player games can go on for an entire game night. And bear in mind, most game nights I go to are 3 to 4 hours. So a whole game night, like nasty nearly 4 hours, is to teach and play a 5 player game of Terraforming Mars. Too long. Too long when you consider the game is rinse, repeat all the time. Draft some cards, play a couple of actions. Draft some cards, play some actions. Draft some cards, play some actions. It's literally rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And you build up this engine, you get it working, and then you still got to keep going. You still got to keep going with cards that you randomly may or may not get. You know, you could draft, yes, but it's still a lot of luck in the luck of the draw in the cards, because, you know, you might want certain cards, but they never turn up out of the deck in the whole game, or they might have appeared in somebody else's hand and they take them because they want them. So a lot of the times you can get really screwed over just by luck of the draw. And woe betide you if you want to quicken the game up by just simply drawing from the deck, because then it is just a giant luck fest at that point. You know, aesthetically, the game needs a lot of work. I mean, the cubes are horrible, the board is fairly blank and plain, and in order to not have your cubes knock everything over on your player boards, people have to spend nigh on, what, 50, 60 quid on this game to get the overlays in order to actually cover the player boards, which really should have been in the game from the start. And to get, like, nice looking tiles rather than the basic stuff they've got, like the 3D ones, again, people pimp this game out with a ton of money. And granted, if you love the game, great, go and do that. But it really just soured me on, I was really looking forward to this, and to see it just basically be average, probably below average for me, really was a bit of a letdown. You can convince me to play it every now and again, but only with 3 players and only if people know what they're doing. You know, and solo I thought the game was okay, but I don't want to play this game solo all the time. I wanted to play it multiplayer, and it just really didn't work for me. Yeah, and the expansions as well, you know, just paint like, here's £20 and you get a map. Okay, what's on the map? Well, you know, the lakes and the trees were in these hexes. Now they're in these hexes. Yay! £20. Seriously? And tweak a couple of goals. But they're still fixed. What would it have been, you know, was it another problem to just simply have the goals on tiles that you could mix and match every game, so you could have interchangeable end game conditions on any map? Come on, simple design decision, and that would have infinitely added to the replay value. But as I say, a load of people like this game, you know, people will adore it, some people hate it, it's quite divisive in that respect. I still think it's overrated, and, you know, but that's just me. You know, you love it, go ahead. But for me, this was a big, big disappointment. Terraforming Mars. My number 4 is really going to get some people going, because I do like the game, but it's still not that fun for me. You know, I wanted more variety out of the game, and I'm just not getting it. And I much prefer its older brother, you know, its younger brother, whatever, Rising Sun. But Blood Rage, unfortunately, didn't quite hit the mark I was expecting. I like the models, they look great. The theme is cool, you know, I mean, it's, you know, hit and miss there and there. But, you know, I like the idea of, yes, we're all Norse mythology and gods, and we get to have these cool monsters and battle each other. It was great. But then it all boiled down to this fairly weak card system. And then there were certain thematic disconnects and balance issues that I really didn't like. Firstly, quests. Quests were literally all just, how many people do you have in Valhalla, or control X regions. That's it. That's all the quests are. Yay, thematic. It's just basically area control cards. And then the variety was called into question because you only had so many different upgrades. Different upgrades for each section of your board. I think there was like, one, maybe 2 leader upgrades. I think there was only one thing you could get for your boat upgrade. You know, and so your options were actually quite more limited than you thought, apart from just getting a couple of cool monsters, which everybody aims for because it's the most fun part of the game. And then on top of that, balance-wise, there were some upgrades that were definitely better than others. I mean, I have won that game so many times with the Loki strategy, it is ridiculous. Especially if I get the upgrades for the boats in every age, meaning that all I have to do is basically go, oh, is there a Ragnarok about to appear here, or a giant battle I can't possibly win? I'll just park my little boat over there, nice. Oh, it died. 12 points. What? It seems very easy to abuse that strategy. Certainly a lot easier to win by that strategy than it is to win by, say, actually going out and killing people and trying to win battles. Not saying that it can't be done, but, you know, from an accessibility point of view, it is so much easier to do Loki than it is the other ones. And so there were just these elements that really put me off it. And again, this was one that I thought, oh yes, this looks amazing. It's getting all the hype, all the buzz. I want to try it. And it just disappointed me. Now I really like Rising Sun. That's the game I was hoping Blood Rage would be. But, you know, at least if we didn't have Blood Rage, we probably wouldn't have Rising Sun. So I suppose I've got to be thankful to it there. And you could convince me to play Blood Rage every now and again, but to be honest, I haven't seen anybody bring it to the table in years. So has the hype kind of died down for this game? Who knows? But Blood Rage, number 4. My number 3 hurts me, because I love the series it's based on. I love the intellectual property this is based on. Unfortunately, the game, even though it represented the theme very, very well, kudos to Gale Force 9 for doing that. But unfortunately, the game mechanically was just a drawn-out luckfest that lasted for 3 to 4 hours, and it just didn't need to be like that. Firefly the game. I love the series. I love the movie. It's criminal that it got cancelled. I want more Firefly. I want more Firefly. But in the game, I thought, yes, I get to have a board game on Firefly. Fantastic. And theme-wise, it is great. All your characters are there, all the locations. You feel like you're in that universe. Well done. Big problem. It is so much of a luckfest, it's unreal. You have luck of the draw on cards that you get. You have luck of the draw on where the Reavers end up going. You have luck of the draw on how many times you roll the dice in that game. It is ridiculous. And then on top of that, the game lasts forever. The basic version has you just get to a monetary target and then get to some location and battle a couple of challenges or something. I can't remember. But it lasts like 3 to 4 hours plus. It took us ages to finish it. And every game of Firefly takes forever. If you expand it, it takes even longer. I don't want to play a luck rolling dice fest for that long with so many pieces that it's a table hog and a half. You know, why wasn't it a 60 to 90 minute streamlined game? I mean, if you're going to roll the dice that often, then make it 60 to 90 minutes with that same theme and it would have been fantastic. But now you can only convince me to play Firefly again if you are actually going to cap the end game condition by saying we play for 90 minutes and whoever's closest to the condition wins or something. Because I don't want to, I want this theme. I want that theme. But not for that long. Not with that much dice rolling. It just, literally those 2 things and it just kind of destroyed the game for me. That's why it had to be quite high on this list, especially as I love the intellectual property it's based on. I still love Firefly. Great series, just not a great game for me. Number 2 is definitely a bit of a rant because I paid good money to get this game. I literally bought it at Essen on a whim. It was being shown off. I thought, oh my god, this is a giant epic looking game in a big brown case, and I'm a sucker for big wooden crates for stuff. I thought, oh, look at all these technology cards and this map, it's huge. I get to do this civilization game with like 18 players potentially. This could be a great convention setting. Yes, I gotta try this. It just looks great. It's a gamble, but I'll spend the money on it. I really should trust my gut instinct more often because I am an idiot for deciding that I should have bought that game. Thankfully, I was able to sell it off to some good friends of mine who I game with, who enjoy the game immensely and play it at other conventions. Great. I got my money back, they got a fun game. So everybody's happy. But Mega Civilization, what on earth was this epic fail all about? And this is a game I hate. This is a game that I was really thinking it was going to be great. You know, I like Civilization games, but sometimes they just keep hitting the mark for me. They tend to be the biggest disappointments because I have expectations of what I want a Civ game to be like, and then it doesn't deliver. So Mega Civ, you have a huge sprawling map. You can have up to 18 players. Each of you takes a nation. You are building buildings and you are getting resources and you're trading with other players. And you're leveling up technologies, and the game could go on for hours and hours, last nearly an entire day before it actually finishes. Now, granted, the length was a bit of a put-off. I mean, the first time I played it lasted for, what, like 8-9 hours? And this was just a basic game with about 12 people. It was like, oh my god! You know, so the length was a bit of a put-off. But if I would have been engaged, I would have enjoyed it. What does this game boil down to? I'll tell you. You occasionally, for about, let's say, 20% of the game, will move your pieces and build stuff on the board. Okay, that's a normal Civ, but it doesn't go on for that long, and it's pretty simplistic in nature. This is what the other 80% of the game is like. I got two stored, I got two free, or I got this, I can't trade this card. Do you have two? Do you have two? Do you have two or? Look, I've got a jewel, it's sitting here, I've got some sand, I've got some glue, I don't know, I've got something, I've got a Sega Genesis, I'll trade that. It is literally a shouting match. Do you remember the old game Pit? It was a small game from the 70s, I think it was, a small card game where everybody's shouting at each other going, "Two! Two!" You know, that I need more cards and you're trying to get this one of each and then you win or something like that. I hate that game. It is such a horrible game. This Mega Civilization is that game for 12 hours. It is one giant game of Pit. That is what the trading phase is. And the trading phase is most of the game. You walk around the room and you chat to other players and you're trying to exchange the resources. And there's certain restrictions on how you trade. But everybody is shouting at each other, trying to get these trades off. It just basically is Pit. And I don't like Pit. So why would I want to do it for 12 hours, let alone 12 minutes? And then on top of that, oh my word. I mean, let's ignore things like the balance issues with the technologies and the fact it goes on for 12 hours. Here was a huge misstep. You have calamities in this game. They are negative effects that affect your civilization. Now, they appear in the same cards as the resources. You get some for free, and then if a calamity is there, and if you still have it at the end of the trading round, that's it, it goes off in your face. What? What, we're playing hot potato with calamities during a trading phase? How does that work thematically? It's a complete thematic disconnect. But it gets worse. Besides trading these calamities, and they hurt, these are some damaging calamities. You get caught with some of those in the game, you are done. You could be done out of the game like 2 hours into it and you've got to stay there for another 10. Yay, fun, pseudo knockout in a 12-hour game. But there are some calamities that you cannot trade. You cannot trade them. It is forbidden to trade these cards. If you get them, you're done. You have to suffer the calamity. It could wipe out your entire coastline. You're done. So in a 12-hour game, with a lot of players, by luck of the draw, you can draw a card that can wipe you out of the game entirely. Luck of the draw can wipe you out of the running. Who in their right mind thought that that was an intelligent design decision in a game? It is infuriating how bad I think this game is. I paid so much money for it and it looks great. It was in a crate and I thought this was going to be amazing. I really should have done my research better. And now this is why I do my research with games more often, because I don't want to get suckered into stuff like that again. It was horrible. It was a bore fest. It was a shouting fest. It's like unbalanced in many ways, and you don't even interact with a lot of the players because you interact with them in the trading phase, but on the board you can only interact with the players next to you. I could be here in Spain, somebody over there on the Middle East on the other side of this long board. I never get to interact with him, ever. Apart from the trading phase. I don't get to sail over and kick his butt. No, I have to interact with 2 people. So, yay! Great idea having 18 players in your game when you can only interact with 2 or 3. I don't know. I think the main reason this isn't my number 1 is probably because, you know, I bought the game for that much money and I was a gamble. So I was gambling that this was going to be good. So I had doubts. So, you know, that sort of thing. And it was hard to rank my 1 and 2. You could interchange 1 and 2 pretty easily. But yeah, 2, mega civilization, mega fail. Very disappointed. And now finally my number 1, and like I said, you could have interchanged my 2 and 1. They were very close on par, but this one I was really looking forward to. And I think it was because it was also innovative as well. It was taking a legacy concept and really making it different. It's like, what, you get to build the board from scratch and then it becomes a Eurogame that you can keep playing after that? And it's from a publisher I really respect. It had really cool concepts I was looking forward to. The aesthetics were great. And it was, oh, hush, 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 you know, are you going to play this game? Are you going to play this game? It was really hushed for a while with what the details that were released. And then as time went on, things started getting revealed that made me a little bit more uneasy. And then I actually played the game, played it solo, and granted, I gather you could probably get more fun out of it multiplayer, but I played the full campaign solo. And I was bored. I mean, it's okay. It's an average game. I think I gave it a 6 originally. I'd probably give it a 5 now or something. It is painfully average. But I was so looking forward to this. I thought Charterstone was going to be this amazing new revolution in legacy concept. You know, a Euro game that you can play for fun for the start, but evolve it over time, and then once you're done, you can actually still play the game and even flip the board and do it again without necessarily worrying about the fact that you know the story. Well, the story is weak as all get out. It is a rubbish little story. You don't care who's what in it. It's just basically an excuse for a couple of diverging paths. Unlocking stuff is okay. In the solo game, though, it does not work. And even in multiplayer, it doesn't work to some extent. Because the problem is that when you're trying to unlock this stuff, you're usually hammering yourself in terms of victory points. And especially against a solo computer, because they don't care what they unlock, they're just going through the motions based on the card deck. So you have to focus on getting victory points. The problem is, getting victory points usually means you're not spending as much time unlocking the cool stuff. Although I say cool stuff. You get to a very quick rinse-repeat affair with this game, where you open, oh, it's a new location, it's a doghouse. And then you open a new location, oh, it's a mine shaft. Oh, it's a pet shop. Hang on a minute. And then you notice the locations are basically slightly better versions of the ones you already had. Occasional mechanics come in, like friend cards and item cards, but these are pretty basic stuff that we've seen in every game today. It's nothing revolutionary. And then you get like, oh, now my locations I find are the item shop, which is good for this type of item, and then this location is good for that type of item, and this location is good for that type of item. The variety is very squeezed. In this. You think there's a lot of variety in this game, but there really kind of isn't. And by the time I got to something like game 10, 9 to 10, you know, and you play about 12, 13 games, I was bored. I just wanted it to end. And the first 3 games are pointless because you start off with literally about 5 spaces and the game is literally, I'll go to these 3 spaces all the time during the game, first one to get to a certain amount of points. The first few games are pointless. I almost didn't want to play the whole campaign because of how bad the first 2 or 3 games are. You know, but it started to pick up and I thought, yeah, I'm unlocking stuff. This is alright, but I'm seeing a lot of repetition. And by the time I was done, it's like, do I want to buy the recharge pack and reset it? No. I sold it cheap so someone else could do it. I was so looking forward to Charterstone. And granted, I've ranted more about Mega Civ than Charterstone, hence I was questioning where to do it. But whereas Mega Civ, I had hesitation because it was a gamble and then really hated it. This one, granted, I find it average, but you would never get me to play it again. But it was because I was so hyped for this one. Really thinking that a new revolution in legacy games was about to come in. I love Stonemaier games for a lot of their other stuff. You know, I've got Viticulture, one of my favourite games of all time. And And, I like their stuff. I like their designs, and it looked good. It was a good sort of streamlined game, but it just was meh and fairly dull. You want a decent legacy game? Go get the Pandemic legacy games. Maybe even Risk Legacy. That's not too bad. Avoid Seafall. But yeah, I was expecting so much more for Charterstone, and it just around December time when I was playing it over Christmas, I thought, yes, this is my little Christmas present here, Charterstone, and and it just felt heartbreaking to give the review and say this really isn't all it's cracked up to be. Some people have enjoyed it a lot. Some people love it. I don't quite understand how you can love it that much, because it is very Euro-like. I mean, the theme is fairly pasted. It's just get VPs, and some of the components are a bit weird, like tiny, tiny little cubes and stuff for certain things, although I won't spoil too much more. So yeah, I was kind of a bit bummed out with Charterstone, and that's why it makes my #1 disappointment. So that's it for the top 10 disappointments. I need to be slightly quick because I can see the battery flashing on my camera, and I don't want to have to go over the trouble of doing another video just to get the end. So I'll just quickly mention a few honourable mentions. There's no Patreon choice on this one, unfortunately. But honourable mentions are Dungeon Lords. I thought, a game that was based on like Dungeon Keeper, where I can have my own dungeon and stop people getting into it, like the PC game. Great. It's a Euro game where you make about 16 decisions, and it's this ridiculous little puzzle, and it's just like, yeah, no, sorry, don't like it. Fury of Dracula. I like the game, but I was hyped to try this one. I thought, oh, great, this very thematic vampire hunting game, and it is great. It is a great thematic game, but it's like 3+ hours. It takes forever. You play with too many people, you will sit there bored out of your head because you will have done your move and you got to wait for the discussions to hurry up and finish, and then you get to do your little move, and the tension can only last for so long. I wanted Fury of Dracula to blow me away and be my favourite game of all time, and it just wasn't. On top of that, Battle for Kemble's Cascade. This was based on those R-type shooters you got in Atari and all the old school shoot-'em-up games. It was a board game based on that. Like the idea of the concept. However, it turned into one of the most fiddly games to maneuver and manipulate as all get out, and it just really didn't sing well to me. And lo and behold, the battery died, so either that or a magician, take your pick. But yes, so I was talking about The Godfather next. The Godfather is a very popular area control game at the moment, and to begin with, I did kind of like it. So this was an honourable mention mainly just because, it didn't disappoint me straight away. It just very quickly got a bit samey. The map never really changed that much. You just unlocked different territories, which wasn't a huge deal. It's a bit like the same like in Power Grid, where we got more players, therefore you unlock a bit more of this generic map. It's like not really that interesting. But it started off well. I liked the area control. I liked the sort of backstabberiness of it. The theme, even though it's got nothing to do with The Godfather really, at least captured a kind of mafia motif. But the problem I had is that it just got very samey. You were collecting these cards, that got you points, and the artwork was the same on all of them. I mean, why? Could they miss the pick there? Could they have not just paid a bit of extra money and got more artwork? I mean, come on, it's Cool Mini or not. And, even though the miniatures were great, the problem was that, these cards just had very generic missions on them, conditions to get points. You saw them all within one game, and then that was pretty much the crux of the game. You either controlled areas to get points, or you got those mission cards and got points. And every game just felt entirely the same. So at first I liked it, but then once I got to the point of reviewing it, so it started to really show its, the cracks and that pretty much from the beginning of when I first played it to review stage. Not a massive gap, but that's why it gets a mention. So that's it for my top 10 disappointments. And yes, I know some of these are going to be your favourite games in the world. It's all just opinion at the end of the day, so I'm sure we can all get along. But I'd be interested to know what some of your disappointments are. Which games are you really looking forward to and which ones, just sort of fell short of the mark, or, and how big was the gap? Are we talking like really was going to love it and then, oh my god, it's horrible, or is there a bit more of an underlying story behind it? The next top 10 list, if I can get it out on time, will be the top 10 long games. So, as much as I rag on games for being too long for their own good, I do actually like some long games. We'll find out what my favourite 10 are next episode. So, that's it for me. If you like what you see, please subscribe to the Broken Meeple channel, the blog, the podcast, the rest of the YouTube videos. Subscribe to the Patreon campaign to lend $1 or $2. It's all appreciated. from now, I'm going to get on with playing some games that I really want to get to the table a bit more. I can see the Lord of the Rings LCG box just staring me in the face over there saying, play me, Luke, play me. I hear voices, I have issues. So I'm going to wrap this up now, and remember, even if a game does disappoint you at the end of the day, it is still only a game. See you next time, guys. Take care.
Disappointed.